This is going to seem quite random, and I suppose it is, because the thought just occurred to me the other day. Actually, I think it was yesterday. I was thinking about assassins and accused assassins, and how there'd been so much investigations into these men who either committed these assassinations, these high-profile assassinations, or were patsied, if you like, for committing these high-profile assassinations. I was thinking to myself, we've heard a lot about Sirhan and the allegation that he was MK Ultra'd. We've heard a lot about Mark David Chapman. There have been movies made about Mark David Chapman, if you can believe that. Biopics about the guy. One of them starring Jared Leto, who put on, like, I think 70 pounds to play Chapman. I can't remember what the name of that movie is right now, but you can find it if you search for it. And of course, we hear about Lee Harvey Oswald all the time, and the secret life that he allegedly led, seeming to be a communist sympathizer, but also having contacts with the CIA and so forth. But who's one guy that you never hear about? Or not, I shouldn't say never, but barely ever hear about. You barely ever hear investigations into this guy, who he was, and possible explanations for why he did what he did. And that's John Hinckley Jr., the attempted assassin of President Reagan. Allegedly, again. I always have to say allegedly. So I decided to go looking for things, and there's really scant information out there as far as the life that he led. And, well, I mean, what I shouldn't say there's scant information, because we all have heard, if you're into the assassination stuff, if you're into true crime, if you've looked into that kind of thing, we have all heard about his infatuation with Jodie Foster after watching Taxi Driver 15 times, which when I heard that, I felt slightly indicted, because I think I watched Joker maybe about 15 times, maybe more. Here come the police for me. During the fall and winter of 2019. I mean, if you want to talk about being obsessed, I was obsessed with that movie. But I didn't fantasize about rescuing whatever the love interest character was in that movie. The way that Hinckley did about Jodie Foster, who was only 12 at the time that she appeared in the movie. So anyway, back to the story here. So we do all know about the Taxi Driver stuff. If you're in the know, if you're a true crime aficionado, you do know about those kinds of things. But what about the life that he led up to that point? Who was he? What was he? What were some things about him that might seem a little strange or suspicious? There's really scant information insofar as there have been entire documentaries made about these other guys. There have been books written about these other guys, but about John Hinckley Jr., it's just little tidbits that you get here and there. Now, from what I am able to gather, there are plenty of suspicious things regarding Hinckley. First of all, he was from a prominent family that I believe had connections to oil, the same way the Bush family did. They lived in Texas. And I think he was born in Oklahoma. Then they moved to Dallas, Texas, to a ritzy neighborhood. And there were connections between their family and between the Hinckley family and the Bush family. Now, given that George Bush Jr. was the vice president at the time, next in the line of succession, if Reagan died, I think that's kind of relevant that somebody from this family that was chummy with the Bush family allegedly tried to assassinate Reagan. That's a lead that's worthy of being looked into, but it hasn't been looked into very much that I know of. I haven't heard of anybody go just hot on this trail, eager to find things out, to connect the dots. Of course, if you are somebody who looks closely at these kinds of things, these political dynasties, these powerful families like the Bush family, you know that there's a lot of dark things going on surrounding the Bushes. Bush Sr. was the head of the CIA, alleged involvement with the Franklin scandal, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. There's lots of stuff with this guy that's just there's a lot of darkness there. From his somebody in the line of his family, someone in his lineage named Prescott, who attempted a coup, who tried to take over the United States government in the 1930s, tried to wrestle it away from FDR, was involved in an active coup, and then when it got foiled, nothing happened to him. He still went on being whoever he was, having whatever position he had. Also ties to the German Nazis, all this stuff. Okay, it's all there. So I looked into Hinckley a little bit. It wasn't a deep dive. I didn't really have time for a deep dive. I don't know enough how to engage in a deep dive. I've never been on the dark web. I'm basically kind of more or less a normie when it comes to technological ability to find things on the internet. But I did find a few interesting things. The weirdest thing of all, and forgive me if you already know this, because this is not really new news. This is several months old now, but it was the first time I ever caught wind of it yesterday. But apparently John Hinckley Jr., the man who allegedly almost killed President Reagan and who paralyzed James Brady and other things, who was sent to a mental institution instead of to prison because it was determined that he was not mentally fit to stand trial and thus not responsible for his actions, but was released a couple of years ago. I already knew that, but I bet you didn't know. I bet you didn't know that he's got a YouTube channel, and on his YouTube channel, he's recording music. He's got a guitar. He's strumming his guitar. He's singing, and he's written some original songs. I swear, and I will leave the link below. Again, forgive me if this is old news to you, but it was pretty shocking and kind of hilarious in a very weird sort of way to see this paunchy 60-ish looking guy kind of out of it, just strumming his guitar. I mean, he plays it fine. He doesn't know that many chords, but he was certainly competent. writing original songs. That's pretty strange. You can just go to John Hinckley. Just type in John Hinckley. You'll get his channel. And so, again, this notorious assassin now is aiming to become the new pop sensation. He's starting his own record label, apparently. That's what he says. So that was pretty wild. Another thing I found out, which I don't know what to make of this at all, or if to make anything of it at all, but there's a Mandela effect surrounding John Hinckley Jr. And that is that apparently for a while there are a ton of major media outlets who spelled his name in articles, spelled his name Hinkley with no C. But now apparently, and from what I can remember, this is not a Mandela effect thing for me, because I don't really, I can't swear by the fact that he was once just Hink and now it's suddenly Hinkley as far as the spelling of his name. But this one person on Odyssey.com has located all of these things where they, in major publications, they've spelled his name Hinkley. This is like residue, as they call it in the Mandela effect parlance. When you change over from one thing to another, when Berenstein becomes Berenstain, then everything in the past becomes Berenstain, except there's some residue here and there that sneaks through. And without getting too much into the Mandela effect stuff, I know that can be alienating. I know that some people just dismiss it out of hand. But I just think it's interesting to note, regardless of what you think about the Mandela effect. And I am very open-minded myself about the Mandela effect. Call me a kook if you want, but I've experienced some. I've been Mandela affected myself, and I don't. I'm not satisfied by any of the efforts to explain these things away as tricks of the mind or whatever. It just doesn't work for me. So anyway, there's that going on. You got Hinckley writing songs, strumming his guitar and singing. You've got the Mandela effect surrounding his name. And finally, there have been a couple of news broadcasts that were unearthed, and this was something that one thing led to another. These things did not just announce themselves. Unfortunately, you can't just type things. YouTube is just it's useless now as far as their search engine. If you're looking into things that they're really trying to kick dirt on and cover up and make sure that the trail goes cold, you can't use the YouTube search engine because they've fully flexed the their algorithmic muscles. They've done a number on the algorithm. It used to be that you would type in something and the first things that would come up would be the most searched things, which is how it should be in a forum that's dedicated to freedom of speech. But now, as I pointed out many times before, you can barely find certain things. You type in President Bush mentions NWO in speech, and you won't find it. It'll be buried way down. Anyhow, this is something, a point that I've made before, but there nevertheless remain a couple of videos on YouTube. One of which is somebody who I don't know who he was. It was the first time I saw him giving a public speech in 1988, where he's talking about inconsistencies about what happened with Hinckley at the scene, and another which is a news report that exposes various things, like that that Hinckley was staying in a motel, and every day at a certain time he went to a payphone and talked to somebody on that payphone at that same time of day every day. This is, in the days just leading up to the assassination, which, what do they call them? Trigger words, or you see somebody pick up a telephone and the person on the other end of the line says waterbed, and then you hang up and the guy switches into MK Ultra mode. It's like the word that triggers him. They train them in this way to have these words that or these combinations of words or whatever, something that shifts them into this alter state, this alter personality. So I'm not saying that's definitely what was happening, but why was he answering this phone at the same time every day, this payphone at the same time every day? Who was he talking to then? What was that all about? And this old network broadcast also confirms that the Bush family and the Hinckley family have connections. And this was back in the early 80s when the media wasn't quite so Mockingbird saturated, and you could still see some hints of truth peek out here and there. So it turns out there are plenty of things out there about John Hinckley Jr., but you have to look a lot harder to find them. And I just wanted to report what I had found for anyone who might be interested, and I'll leave the links that I spoke of below for your perusal. Thanks for watching. My name's Andy Nowicki. You can check out my work at altrightnovelist.com. Check out my Substack page. And also my latest book, The Insurrectionist, can be purchased from terrorhousepress.com.